What does it mean to grow up in a house that never truly feels like home? Imagine a childhood filled with silence, where adults never talk about things that actually matter. Today, we're looking at Leaving Home, a memoir in full color by Mark Haddon. It is a deeply personal story about a boy who felt like a freakishly clever outsider in his own family, and how he eventually used art and writing to make sense of his life. The events of this book mainly take place in England during the 1960s and 70s. This was a time when propriety, or behaving in a way that others expected, was more important than being honest about your feelings. People worked hard to have clean carpets and tidy gardens to show the neighbors they were successful, even if they were unhappy behind closed doors. The author, Mark Haddon, is famous for his award-winning novel The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. In that book, he wrote about a boy who saw the world differently, and in this memoir, we see that Haddon was that same kind of child. His writing style is astringently honest and scalpel sharp. He describes his memory as a collection of fragments, saying, "It is as if I were leafing through a damaged photo album, individual snapshots separated by gaps where many other pictures have fallen out." Leaving Home is not a typical autobiography. Haddon calls it a memoir in full color because it is filled with his own drawings, old family photos, and even medical records. It is a blistering and darkly funny look at a childhood that was often miserable and loveless, but it is also about how art can help us survive the difficult parts of our lives. Life for young Mark Haddon revolved around a modern-looking house in Northampton. His father was an architect who designed buildings called abattoirs, places where animals are slaughtered, and he was a man with a short fuse or a very quick temper. His mother was a woman who focused on keeping the house perfectly tidy but struggled to show any real love or affection to her children. Reflecting on the silence of his home, Haddon writes, "I never heard an adult tell or ask another adult something that really mattered." This means that while they spoke to each other, they never shared their true thoughts or feelings. At age 12, Haddon was sent to a boarding school where he experienced bullying and physical punishment. These early experiences led to long-term struggles with anxiety and depression. In his adulthood, there were moments where the emotional pressure became too much. He describes one incident of self-harm with painful honesty, explaining, "I do it because I'm uncontrollably angry with myself, and there's just too much pressure inside my head." The story also covers Haddon's adult life, including his work as a teacher, his happy marriage, and a terrifying emergency heart surgery he survived in 2019. He waited until both of his parents had passed away to finish this book, so he could finally tell his story with complete honesty. Haddon explores several main ideas that many of us can relate to. 1. The mystery of memory. He shows how we often remember small, vivid details, like the jungle of the grass or a rucked bedspread, while larger events remain blurry. 2. The need for affection. He examines what happens to a child when parents do not show love and how that emotional landscape shapes an adult. 3. Healing through creativity. He uses his drawings and stories to dismantle and remake his past, turning painful memories into something beautiful and creative. Haddon's memoir stands out because it acts as a kind of exorcism where he faces his past to finally let it go. By including over 80 illustrations and snapshots of his life, he creates a montage that feels more real than a standard history book. It is a bracing and absorbing record of a person learning to live beside their past rather than being trapped by it. This book shows us that even when someone is damaged by their upbringing, they can still find resilience and build a happy life of their own. We can see this story as a guide for anyone who has ever felt like they didn't belong. Haddon's journey is about escaping a place that never felt like home and learning to create somewhere that does. He reminds us that our childhood might be the beginning of our story, but we are the ones who get to choose how that story ends. By turning his silence into art, he invites us to look at our own lives with more honesty and more hope.
Thanks for listening to Books Simply. If you enjoyed it, feel free to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves books.